complicates things, and sometimes we might go to use a yellow folder, but we're out of yellow folders, so then this time we grab an orange folder. Well, then the system starts to break down. So I personally suggest one, or in select instances, two colors. So in our office, we use blue for pretty much everything, except for all files related to financial management. So my office manager just opened the one drawer here, and it's the financial management drawer, and it looks just beautiful. Look at those labels, Myrna. Those are wonderful. We should take a picture of that to show people. But otherwise, all the other files are blue. And why did I pick blue? Years ago I picked blue because I love blue. It makes me happy. So if yellow is makes you happy, pick yellow. Like I literally, when you open your file drawer, I want you to, almost to pretend that you're looking at pictures of your children. Like I want you to feel a sense of pride and happiness and joy when you open your file drawer. I want you to almost feel like that organ music is being played, dun, 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 when you open your file drawer, and like doves are flying out. Like I want you to feel that good and that proud of your file drawer. Okay, moving on. When your file drawers are that fantastic, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just I like it crisp, I like it clean, I don't like it too full, I like it easy to find stuff, home for everything. And when it is that easy to work with your file drawers, you can get rid of the to be filed pile. I do not like these piles. They tend to just act like rabbits and multiply before our eyes, and we never really have that time to get around to filing something. So what I want you to do, whenever you feel like taking that piece of paper and you're looking around your office and you're not really sure where to put that piece of paper, and a lot of us think, well, I'll just put it here, and we just put it down on an open surface, and we think, well, I'll deal with that later. I'll just put it over here. I want you to invoke your Spider-Man fingers, the Spidey fingers. And if you ever saw the Spider-Man fingers, you can picture those little spiky, sticky things that used to pop out of his fingers. Or I guess they still do, as Spider-Man is alive and well. But they're sticky, and I want you to think that you cannot let go of that paper because you got your Spidey fingers. So you can't just put a piece of paper down somewhere. You've got to put it in a system, right? Touch it once, create a system, okay? And that can be put a Post-it note on it and put in your outbox for your assistant to create a file. That can be grab a file from your supply of fresh new files, whatever that may be. But we want to create a home for everything. A pile like this does us no good. Information is only useful to keep to the extent that we can access it when we need it. Okay, organizing principle number 4. We want to establish a home for everything. So I'm on slide 26 right now for those of you dialing in. So I love these desk drawer dividers. Try saying that 5 times fast. Typically, I'll go into someone's office and we look in their top desk drawer, and it's kind of a mishmash. And if you haven't done this already, then I do encourage you to get something like this for your desk drawer. Take everything out of your desk drawer that's currently there, dump it on your desktop, and then go back and kind of sort it all. And then weeks and months and years from now, whenever you open that desk drawer, I think that you will feel this great sense of pride and joy. I have people years later say, Anne, honestly, my drawer still looks fantastic, and I love it. I have clients that I'll see, months, years later, and they are like, hey, Anne, look at my drawer, seriously. Isn't this awesome? So does your drawer need to look exactly like this? No. Obviously, you want to keep the tools that are relevant for you, for your job. If you never use binder clips, don't keep binder clips in your top drawer. But you do want to keep like with like. So the pens are together, the highlighters are together, and yada, yada, yada. And you generally want one home for everything. Yeah, as you can see, I've doubled up on some of the homes in this picture, but it's not too cluttered. There's not too much piling going on so that we can find stuff when we need it, which is really critical. What I like about this desk drawer divider, and I don't know if you can tell that from this picture, is that this is a nice deep one. I think this one is 2 inches deep, and it really fills my drawer. So you can get the very shallow desk drawer dividers, like that are 1/2 an inch or 3/4 of an inch thick. I don't suggest you get those. Get a nice big thick one. Obviously, you got to measure your drawer to make sure it works, but this one here, I think I paid less than $10 for at Staples. So these are widely available, and they are not very expensive. Okay, we want a system, with that said, about having a home for everything, we want a system for our project notes. And I tend not to like the spiral bound notebook to keep all of your notes under the sun. So on slide 27 here, as I'm showing, the notes should be right in a home for that project. And I say project, but it could be clients, it could be an area of research that you're working on, it could be a business development initiative, whatever it is. I just use the general term project. But I like to see all notes in a home for that project. And I use a file folder as an example, but a box can work. IKEA, Staples, the Store Solutions, these all have great boxes that can work. Like, so I think about one of my kids, the baby album that I've been working on is a project. All the stuff related to that baby album is in a box. In the workplace, folders work really well, but I've also seen binders work. So I'm not too fussed about what the home is. I definitely want a home for each individual project. And your notes go into that home for that project. Now, I do suggest that your notes, we are diligent about two things. One is the name of the project, and the other is the date. My son right now has a teacher who is quite strict about this and has the kids write out lines if they don't always write kind of the title and the date. And I think that is such a great skill that my son's teacher is instilling in him right now. As much as he doesn't really appreciate it, I think in time he'll realize that it is a great skill. So we definitely want the date. Knowledge is so powerful in the workplace. And if we can refer back to a note and say, yes, I know when we chatted on November 7th, 2011, your main priorities were A, B, C. So for us to be able to say that and be able to easily put our fingers on that information is really powerful. As well, in your notes, what I suggest you do is you leave some space in the margin to indicate actions that are required. And as I'm showing here, the space in the margin, I tend to use the system of stars. You can use stars, you can leverage your own system, but whenever there is an action that I need to do, I tend to put a star in that margin so that as I'm scanning the notes, it's very obvious to me what I need to do to follow up from this meeting. If someone else I'm working with, in this case JP, needed to do something, then I would tend to write that person's initials down because I don't want to look back on these notes a few days or a few weeks from now and say, oh gosh, was I supposed to revise the contract or was JP revising the contract? So that's just really just for my recollection. So in our next meeting, when we are now talking about everything, I can give an update on the 3 things I've done. And I know that we had agreed last time that JP was going to do the contract. So it's all about systems once again. Now in terms of keeping a home for everything, I do recommend one central calendar. All appointments go into one central place. So, I'm guessing that many of you have a smartphone, a tablet in addition to your computer, your work computer. I would suggest that you synchronize these things. We get into a lot of trouble and we miss things when we are managing multiple calendars. So everything written down on the calendar and one central calendar is the best practice. Now, I know that there are some people who say, well, I like to keep my work calendar and then I like to keep the personal calendar. So that can work as long as you're very clear on what the boundaries are. So for example, if your work calendar is your default until, let's say, 5 p.m., after which your personal calendar kicks in, that can work. But think about some of the gray areas. Let's say you have a dentist appointment at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday. That's a personal appointment, but do you put that in the work calendar or do you put that in the personal calendar? I would suggest that you put that in the work calendar. So you think about work as all appointments up until 5 p.m. and you think about personal as all appointments after 5 p.m. Now, that is just if you want to have the division between your personal and your business calendar. Best practice is that everything goes into one calendar. And I think about my calendar. I have obviously many work appointments, but also many appointments with 3 busy children and a busy family. So I keep everything in one calendar. And yes, we do have a family calendar, which I use to kind of keep the family informed of everything that's happening, like, you know, whose spelling test is on Friday, whose library day is on Tuesday. But that is, I've just pulled from my calendar. I still keep all of that information in my one central calendar. As well, with our contacts, I do suggest one central place where you document all of your contact information. Now, I'm guessing many of us have given up on our little black books, but I find that our email programs are the most popular way to track all of our contact information. And I suggest that you keep all your contact information in one place. Again, if you decide to split your business and personal, I want you to be really crystal clear on what that line is. No gray areas, right? And the trouble is, there is so much gray in all of these things, right? Like there could be someone in your life who is a business contact, but they're also a personal contact. They're a friend. So where do they go? And where do you update their information? And when they get a new cell phone number, where do you change the information? So we want to cut down on redundancy or opportunities for error by centralizing everything and having that person listed once. As well, I do suggest that you make active use of the notes section in the contacts. So in the notes section, you could write the name of their spouse, that name that you always can't seem to remember come the holiday party. You know, write the name, you could write down their birthday. You could write down the fact that you know, they're getting married next month, or whatever that may be. Anything you want to remember about them. That was a key skill or technique that was driven into me when I was doing pharmaceutical sales before my MBA. It was really helpful to write down key information in the notes section. Oftentimes with all the doctors I was working with, I would write down the name of their assistant in their contact record. And I continue to do that today because while I generally find it easy to remember the name of the professional I'm working with, sometimes I forget the name of their assistant. And it is helpful to have that information right at my fingertips. Information, again, is only relevant to the extent that you can access it when you need it. The final organizing principle is that we want to just keep things where we use them. So if pens, again, are something we're using all the time, then we want to keep those handy. So we don't want to have things that we're not using taking up prime real estate, and we don't want to have things that we are using out of reach. So keep things where we use them. And then as well, that also means we want to be putting things away when we're done them. Okay, now all the principles I've talked about today, I do suggest that you take this to your electronic world. Like I said earlier in the call, I find people are pretty good organizing themselves in the electronic world, but many of the principles do, and all of the principles obviously apply to the electronic world. If you do find that you need to step it up a notch in the electronic world, streamline your folders, organize your folders, create homes for things, then I do suggest you dedicate some time to that. One thing that I do find people struggle with is around how they name their files, and I suggest that if your company or firm has not already established a file naming nomenclature standard, then I would suggest you adopt one of your own. And one that I've seen work really well is to have the root name of the file listed first. So that in this case, let's say it's business plan. And then I would suggest you list the version date, because version control is a major issue in the workplace. And obviously there are many companies and firms that have addressed this through their document management system. But if they haven't, then I would suggest that you establish your own version date. So I find myself, there are many documents I'm editing over and over again, and I want to always be able to